I'm back. It is great to have you in. Chris Mannix on, Peter Schrager today. I love once the playoffs start. I love the NBA playoffs. So here, according to reporters, one I know, the other two I trust, Don Van Natta Jr., Seth Wickersham, and Jeremy Fowler of ESPN are reporting Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, when he was going to hire a coach, spoke twice with Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick's former boss, owner of the Patriots. They spoke twice. And during those conversations, Kraft acknowledged he felt betrayed by Belichick at the end. They were not trying to sink him, but they weren't going to send him a lifeline and get him hired. They were brutally candid about Bill Belichick. So first of all, Belichick ruled with an iron fist and was never terribly collaborative. If you're seeking a great job referral after 20 years of keeping your thumb on people, good luck. It's the basic physics. For every action, there's a reaction. Belichick was secretive, controlling, waved off the scouting department last 8-9 drafts. That's why New England's were so awful. There's a reason Brady's adored and Bill's not. He even alienated the greatest player in league history. So again, you can lead in several different ways, but it will not end well for people like the late Bobby Knight or maybe Bill Belichick when you rule with an iron fist. When, being nice and collaborative isn't difficult, and it never really goes out of style. And oh, by the way, players talk to players. They keep it real. Coaches talk to coaches. Owners also talk to owners. When Bill was difficult with Kraft, did he not have the self-awareness, the wherewithal to think, this could come back to bite me in the arse? Really? Again, being nice and a little cooperative is not that difficult. Never goes out of style. And again, look at the Patriots' last 8 drafts. This is just my theory, but the last 8 New England drafts were inept, embarrassing. And yet Nick Caserio leaves New England, goes to Houston, and he's been unbelievable in personnel moves. How is that possible? He was in New England because Bill waved him off and wouldn't listen. Enough. So football's a team sport. Bill didn't ingratiate himself to the Crafts enough, Brady enough at the end. He was a bit of a tyrant. And even for Julius Caesar, you'll get stabbed in the back. Et tu, Bill. That's the way it works. Did Bill never, when you lead and you have all the power and you keep your thumb on people, once the winning dries up, don't be shocked if there's a little resentment. I don't feel sorry for Belichick. Reap what you sow. J-Mac with the news.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Boy, talk about raising the level of discourse in sports. You open the show with melancholy and now a Julius Caesar reference? I mean, it's goodness.
Anytime you can work Brutus into the show. I mean, it's a little Latin.
We need more of you watching 5 hours of hoops and knocking back a couple gin and tonics or whatever you're drinking. Let's start with the Cowboys. Guys, Colin, this team, man. So, obviously, they made the silly declaration they'd be all in this offseason. But so far, the biggest splashes have been quarterback Jordan Lewis and linebacker Eric Kendricks. In an appearance on Dallas local radio, Stephen Jones is still addressing the all-in claim.
When we're all said and done, we max out our salary cap every year, and we will have done that. And, what comes with having a good roster, which we do, and we also are looking towards signing our own guys. It doesn't mean it happens overnight, but when you're wanting to sign players like Dak and Micah and CD, then, that certainly you have to hold money back if you want to have a realistic chance at signing those guys.
Yeah. I understand the Cowboys are a big brand, and people talk about them a lot, but is everybody ready for a reality check? That we have seen the best of the Dallas Cowboys with Dak. He broke into the league. They had the best O-line for about 7 years, and Zeke was in his prime. And the Amari Cooper team was pretty interesting. And McCarthy over McDaniel gives them a little extra juice and energy. We have seen the best of this team. They do not have the cap space. They're going to pay Dak. You can't have a top 5 quarterback salary and win Super Bowls unless you have Mahomes. So just everybody bemoans the last 7-8 years with Dak. That was the best of it. Just like Tony Romo. Everybody used to lament Tony Romo. You didn't appreciate the good years. By the end of it, Tony Romo was so beat up because the O-line was so bad for most of his tenure that you didn't appreciate Tony Romo when he was running around making plays and doing great things. By the end, the last year and a half, Tony was he didn't get Dak's offensive line. And we can bemoan Dak, but you've seen the best of it. The free Dak for several years, then the overpaid Dak, but still pieces around him. Going forward, what happens when they have to move off Micah or they pay Dak and CeeDee Lamb? So, no more Tyron Smith left tackle to protect. You're not going to get a left tackle that good again. That's over. Tyron Smith is a once-in-a-franchise left tackle. No franchise in NFL history has 2 Tyron Smiths at left tackle. You get one of those. Yeah. Ever. You get one like Aaron Donald, Lawrence Taylor. Giants, Thibodeau's great. There are no more Lawrence Taylors. New England will never get another Brady. Rams will never get another Aaron Donald. You're never going to get another Tyron Smith at left tackle. Yeah. Like, that's a top 5 ever. Those days are over. I think this is kind of on ownership, Colin. Yeah, it's
How many times, by the way, have the Niners ownership come out and talked about the Ayuk situation? 0. Why are the Cowboys owners going on radio? Because they want to hear their voice? They want to be out in the media? You know, there's an easy, brief saying that sums up the Cowboys. Do more, say less. Just stop talking. Yeah. Stop giving interviews. Stop talking. Stop putting pressure on your team.
Same if you're a quarterback in New York on podcasts. Maybe a little less talking. That's a different story.
Why'd you have to do that? We're not talking about that, at least not on my watch. Next up, let's go to the draft. Very interesting scenario unfolding in Washington. So they have the number 2 pick, and according to Albert Breer, Washington hosted Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, and 16 other prospects at the same time this week. They started yesterday. They went to Top Golf as a group, and now they're going to do it today at the facility. This is kind of interesting. I like what Adam Peters is doing, right? He had done something like this in San Francisco where he's bringing in a group to try to see how things go, how guys work together or against each other. I don't hate this strategy. I think it's fascinating.
Anytime you go to Top Golf, it's a good decision. There's no losers in that equation.
Yeah, but you go to Top Golf and you're going with a guy who you're competing against to go higher in the draft. You're looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, but what if that guy gets to go to somebody like, a better operation? One of those guys gets to go to Sean Payton. One of them gets to go to the Commanders. So, I mean, it depends on where you land.
Yeah, well, Cliff Kingsbury is, I think, well liked among young quarterbacks.
Very good play caller, yeah.
Yeah. I think this is it. I think Washington is the spot. I would take Washington over New England in a heartbeat.
You and I said, I mean, there's certain things we know to be true. The most talked about draft pick is going to be Caleb Williams, but the Bears only right now have like 4 draft picks. The Chargers want to move down, and if they do, they have a chance to win the draft because of Harbaugh's understanding of college personnel. So my guess is there's 2 or 3 teams, like Arizona's got a lot of picks. We're going to love their draft. The Chargers, Harbaugh, we're going to love their draft. The Bears are going to get talked about a lot. The Commanders have made a massive executive ownership coaching shift. If Jaden Daniels is as good as I think, buy Commanders stock for the next decade. They will not get the publicity because the Bears quarterback selection will trump everything. And Harbaugh's selection is going to get massive news. But the winner in this draft may end up being, just keep your eye, the Commanders have some nice defensive pieces, excellent wide receivers, winnable division with Dak now about to get with Jalen Hurts the bag. Jalen just got it. Dak's going to get another. And they're going to have a quarterback on that rookie contract. Yeah. By the way, Daniel Jones overpaid. Dak probably overpaid. Jalen Hurts highly paid. One team in that division is going to have a quarterback and a rookie contract. The Washington Commanders. And they're going to load up for the next 4 years around Jaden Daniels. That's going to be the team to watch.
You're very high on him. I'm less high. This idea that, like, all the 4 quarterbacks could be in a setting, right? And Washington's looking for little things. One of the good stories I heard from Sanchez is that, he would go to the combine and all the quarterbacks are hanging out. And, the kind of the alpha kind of emerges from the crew, who's like the cool guy and has more just gravitation. People want to be around him. He's telling funny jokes. He's a big dude. And I wonder of these 4 quarterbacks who that guy is. Where they're like, hey, we're going for a ride. All right, let me get the keys,
Caleb Williams is that guy.
Well, he's not in this group, though. He's
That's what I'm saying.
separate. So now it's like May, McCarthy, Daniels, or Penix. And I don't know if any of those guys are
Well,
the
is
guy.
that good? Will Levis would be that guy in last year's draft. What does that mean? I don't need it. If you were a quarterback, that's what I think is funny about this. Bo Nix is fat. Like, Bo Nix and Penix are interesting. They're going to drop, meaning they're probably going to go to better teams. Wouldn't you want to go to Denver with Peyton, or Miami with McDaniel, or Seattle now with great wide receivers? What's funny about that, and I think about this, teams always want to bring the players in to sort of manipulate the players and watch the players. But if I was a player going to Washington and thought Dan Quinn got fired once, I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, I like him, but I don't know. The O-line's bad. There's no run game. I think I'd step back and let the other guys be alpha and impressive and drop to Sean Payton, drop to Mike McDaniel.
That's fair. One of the good stories I remember reading about Deshaun Watson when he was going on recruiting trips. And he would go, I think he went to Clemson on a recruiting trip. And everybody went to sit next to him. Like, they want to hang out with him. And other trips, you hear about quarterbacks, they go to the cafeteria and, like, they're on a recruiting trip. They're, like, kind of hanging by themselves. They're not ingratiating themselves with the team because they're maybe a little nervous, high school kids. But you want that guy who people want to be around. And I just don't know enough about Daniels. He had that Arizona State thing where he was like, okay, he wasn't the guy.
Okay, let's be fair.
I know that was like 3 years ago.
It was Herm Edwards, a defensive coach. They had no players. I mean, come on. They had the 8th best roster in that conference. I watched him play at Arizona State. I thought he was excellent. I watched him as a true freshman. I said it on the air when he went to LSU. LSU just got a great quarterback. I got nothing but pushback from Arizona State fans and LSU fans. I said I watched him. He was very good at Arizona State.
Way, speaking of, I'm curious, if you give Drake May the star receivers and Neighbors and Thomas, who are first-round picks, if you give them to Drake May, how good does Drake May look?
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. I mean, LSU's had great receivers forever. Only Joe Burrow was unbelievable. There's a reason. Yeah. Joe Burrow's unbelievable.
Michael Penix had 2 guys who were going to be drafted early rounds. How many did Drake May have? I just thought I'd put that out there.
What is your point?
Well, I just think people are undervaluing Drake May because he played at North Carolina in like a weak league.
Listen, if you have a chance to go second in the draft, who's undervaluing him? He's not Caleb Williams as a prospect. No. So if he goes 2 or 3, he hasn't been undervalued.
We're just saying there's a huge difference going Washington to Cliff or New England. Well, DOA.
But there's not a big difference going 2nd or 3rd. You're making a case that he's being undervalued. He's undervalued if he goes 28.
No.
But if he goes 3rd, it's like, well, Jaden Daniels moves better than him and was a much more accurate thrower of the football consistently. So I would take Jaden Daniels over Drake May, even though Drake May's got the physical traits I like.
Okay.